Number of things coming up on the show today. First of all, I just want to mention we'll spend a few minutes talking about. It's on the other end of the country, I understand, but a few minutes talking about the shooting that took place this morning near Roanoke, Virginia, where a television crew was doing a live report at, of all things, a water park, and the photographer and reporter were shot and killed. And we'll touch on that in just a couple of minutes, but also some of the things we have coming up this morning. Rebecca Milsoika, I believe, it's her turn with the Twin Falls City Council. It's on a rotation. We are expecting her in studio about 9 o'clock this morning. She'll be talking about the passage of the city budget on Monday. And, of course, a number of her colleagues are either seeking re-election or seeking higher office. Mayor Don Hall making such an announcement today. In fact, Benito Baeza will be attending that announcement, and he'll have some details likely available on our website before noon today, and then more details tomorrow morning on AM Idaho. And, of course, we'll have some discussion about that, too, as well on Top Story. Dr. Jonathan Tripp is going to be joining us at 8:30 this morning. The doctor is bringing along a specialist. They'll be talking about kidney failure, also about care of your kidneys, perhaps some new treatments today that actually help. Science has made great advances in how we treat some of these ailments, and they'll be sharing some thoughts with us between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. If you know someone, we should point out, who is dealing with issues involving their kidneys, please feel free to give us a telephone call during that segment, 736-0300. Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine. We do this every Wednesday morning between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. We'd like you to remember it's a bit like asking a friend medical advice. The doctor and his staff are very friendly people, and again, he'll be dropping by in just a few minutes. I should also note, too, that he has an office located right here in Twin Falls on Fillmore Street, directly across from the main post office. And remember, as he likes to say, life's too short not to feel good. So I was just getting ready for the show, and about 10 minutes of 7 o'clock, I think I heard the first news coming out of Virginia. Now, this took place at 4:45 our time this morning. A reporter and her photographer doing a live report. Now, these things are fairly routine in television morning shows. Doing a live report from, of all places, a water park, which you wouldn't think would be dangerous. And dead smack in the middle of the report, you start hearing gunshots. Now, the report of the gunfire, you get the impression someone came walking up upon them and was very, very close to them. It was not someone shooting at them. My first inclination was someone was shooting at them from a long distance, maybe with a long-distance, rifle and scope. But no, it appears that wasn't the case at all. And I have seen the gut-wrenching video, the reporter having a very pleasant interview about the water park with a woman who apparently is the staffer there, public relations or something along those lines. And suddenly you hear the first shot. There are screams. You see the reporter duck. The woman being interviewed tries to back out of the way as well to get out of the line of fire. Suddenly the camera dips and swings around. Obviously that's the photographer being shot. And you hear some even louder screams, and then the reporter screams, "Stop." There are 8 gunshots. Now, the woman who was being interviewed apparently unharmed. At least what we know at this point, it does not appear that she may have been shot. Just the 2 people from the television station. And the young woman, you hear her scream. The screaming stops. That's apparently after she had been shot and killed. And then the picture goes back to the TV station. That somebody in the control room hit the switch, brought it back to a stunned anchor sitting on set. And we're told that it was nearly 2 hours before people even at the TV station knew what had happened to this crew. And as the sad part of this is, the photographer was engaged to the morning show producer. She was sitting in the booth helping run the controls with this show as it was taking place this morning. So she witnessed this happen and then had to wait 2 hours to find out that the man she intended to marry had been killed. The young reporter, she was 24 years old. She was engaged to another staffer at the television station. So this is going to hit these people hard. Now, there is a screen grab. Drudge has this morning. There's a screen grab apparently as that camera was swinging around. It actually, for a brief moment, got a shot. Well, and that might not, that's a TV word, but it's probably not appropriate with all of this. But it took a picture. It got a picture of a man standing there with a pistol in his hand. And he has a long beard. Now, what does that mean? Well, young people walk around today wearing all sorts of lengthy beards. And, none of them are very well kempt, it seems. You've got these people walking around with beards. The Smith brothers from the Cough Drops would be embarrassed to wear something so scraggly. This fellow has a very long but thin, scraggly beard, appears to be wearing some sort of cap on his head. and standing there just arm raised, right arm raised with a pistol in his right hand. Now, you leave it at that. It could be someone who was a stalker. It could be someone who was jealous of someone. It could be someone who had an issue with the water park. We don't know. From what I've seen, the police in that area, they've been joined by FBI, by ATF. You've got county sheriff's deputies. You've got local police. You've got troopers. They're all on the lookout for this guy, who obviously managed to get away from the scene as soon as this was done, and probably, from that area in Western Virginia, what I know of it, when you get out through that area, you pick up Route 81. That's an interstate highway. If he hits Interstate 81, he could be anywhere. He could head down through North Carolina, or he could head north up towards Pennsylvania. Who knows? But this is the terrain. He's also in the Blue Ridge Mountains, or just east of them. So you've got this area where he could easily just disappear or vanish for a long period of time. But here's the interesting thing about this. And I heard this in the Fox newscast. I did not intend to talk much about this story because it is so far away. I had other things on my list I wanted to address this morning. But here's the interesting thing. In New York City, the police have stepped up their presence outside TV studios. Now, why is that? Is there perhaps something that came through the teletype to police departments? Well, I don't know that they use teletypes anymore, but they still get these warnings. Police departments get all of these heads up, if you will, that come in from around the country. Is there some sort of warning that has gone out that perhaps this is some sort of attack on media coming from some sort of organized effort? Is there a warning that had been posted that there is a group of people who are looking to attack American media? And if that is the case, why would then you have people as far away as New York City? Who do they fear may be behind such an attack? I think it's a lone wolf. Personally, I think it's someone who's out there, again, who is a stalker, probably kooky as all get out, and just decided to go out and start shooting people up. But the New York City reaction leads me to believe that perhaps there is a concern of some sort of terrorist aspect to all of this. Now, you can't tell much from a guy wearing a scraggly beard because, as I say, you don't have to go far around southern Idaho to find people who need a razor. But I'm just telling you right now that it appears that there is some concern that this could be part of a wider effort from maybe a terrorist sort of flank. 8:15, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 62. I do want to point out you can reach the program today at 736-0300, 736-0300. When I was working as a television reporter, gosh, I'm going back almost 20 years ago in Syracuse, New York. I was on TV off and on there from 1988 through 1998. And I can remember one time we had a shooting in the city in a bad neighborhood, gang-related. I did the story during the day when the sunlight was out and showed people all of the bullet holes in the porch where it took place. And then a producer that I worked with decided we had to be back there at 11 o'clock to do a live report. And I said, no one's going to see the house behind us. I said, it's an inanimate object. The shooting is now going to be 24 hours old by the time you put me in. He said, well, we want to establish a presence. The local police department actually had to have a police officer sitting there on the corner across the street from me to ensure that no one else came by and took some shots at us, which embarrassed me to no end because he could have obviously been doing something else, probably more important than sitting there and babysitting us. But maybe if this is a concerted effort, I guess is the pronunciation of the left. This is that type of effort that's going on here with TV reporters. Maybe there is something afoot. We have a caller with us. You're on the air with Bill Colley on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX. What's on your mind?
Well, just in case this could be a terrorist attack or anything like that, I don't know if you heard about what happened to Kurt Schilling, the all-star pitcher for Boston and other teams.
Previously Arizona, in fact.
Yeah, he tweeted that he compared radical Islam to Nazis, and he's been suspended from the politically correct ESPN.
Yes.
And I said to myself, here he did something, in a somewhat of a private way. And, Kurt is a I think he's a pretty principled man. But you see, you just can't have an opinion or you get your butt slapped. And
And
so, go
this
ahead.
this morning, the Boston Globe, which of course used to be a sister paper of the New York Times before it went bankrupt, decided to do a story about his World War II collection because he collects memorabilia from World War II. But a lot of that means that he also has old SS uniforms and coal scuttle helmets and the like. So the newspaper apparently approached him about it, and they said, "What's the deal with all of the Nazi memorabilia?" And he said, "It's a World War II collection." So then the newspaper went and found some liberal, I mean, probably Marxist Leninist college professor at Dartmouth, Massachusetts, or that's in New Hampshire, I guess, New Hampshire. And he said, this is what the guy said, quote, "I've noticed that there is some kind of fetish with Nazi uniforms," unquote. So you know what they're trying to do to Kurt Schilling now?
Yeah, this is what happens with the useful idiots who seem to be thinking they are wiser than the rest of us. But when it comes right down to it, they really are useful idiots. And then when we cower to this BS, we're going to end up with what we've got.
And we've got a country just fraying at all the edges, and no one seems to care.
Well, it's just like I say over and over again to people. I says, if you've ever seen the show Thelma and Louise, they got their foot to the floor, they're headed towards the Grand Canyon rim, and they're laughing and texting.
Thank you very much. Yeah, entertainment's right up until the very end in that movie. 818, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It is 63. Speaking of flags, and because Schilling apparently has some old, Nazi flags as well. Remember Marge Schott? She owned for a brief period of time the Cincinnati Reds, and she was accused of owning a Nazi flag. That was oh, how despicable, etc. Well, you can tell by her last name that her ancestors, and they have a huge German-American population, people descended from German immigrants in the Cincinnati, Ohio area, which she is part of. So for history's sake, she was also a collector of old memorabilia. Gosh, I was up at the Idaho Military Museum a few months ago, which is just out by the airport and outside of Boise. And I walked through the museum, and they have displays with Japanese uniforms and flags and swords, and then they have displays with Nazi coal scuttle helmets. Are they Nazis as well? It's a museum, for crying out loud. But who knows? You're not far away from a major university in the city of Boise. Likely there's somebody there saying, we might have somebody's feelings hurt if they walk through the military, and they've got guns and tanks out there too, and so I don't think it should be there. It made me pee my pants when I drove by, and, and my students laughed at me because I was stinky all day. And if they're laughing at me, I want them disciplined and expelled. 20 after 8, Bill Colley. Hey, speaking of someone being expelled, how about a Confederate flag? More details ahead. We had a guest last week in studio, Kelton Hatch, familiar to many of you. He joins us about once a month from Idaho Fish and Game, and he was talking about some upcoming hunting seasons. And I think for a lot of people, they are very excited about that. And also, let's face it, you're going to be bringing home a lot of meat. We'd like to recommend High Desert Meat Processing, where they process one animal at a time, and what you bring in is what you get back. Darren Van Horn, owner of High Desert Meat Processing in Twin Falls, Idaho, has more than 30 years' experience in the meat business. You can visit them on Facebook. It's High Desert Meat Processing, and they have reviews there of customers. We actually got an over-the-air review a couple of weeks ago from a customer who says great things about the place. Give High Desert Meat Processing a call for all of your wild game and domestic processing needs. The telephone number is 734-9949. High Desert Meat does in-house smoking. Nothing gets shipped out. Specialty meats such as jerky, pepperoni, salami, summer sausage, kielbasa, breakfast sausage, brats, Polish dogs, hot dogs, and much more. USDA approved. Darren works closely with local beef growers and their programs to ensure quality meat. The telephone number again, 734-9949. So speaking about the liberal wing of America and its reaction to anything that they deem offensive, which is whatever they invent on a particular day just so they can have a cause. Idaho Press Tribune reporting, Wilder student asked to remove Confederate flag. I was in Filer a few weeks ago, There are shops that fly the Confederate flag downtown. There are people that fly it at their homes from their front porches. What that flag has come to resemble, it's like the Gadsden flag when it was adopted by the Tea Party movement a few years ago. The Confederate flag is no longer a symbol of the Deep South. It's a symbol of in your face. That's what it really means. And that's the attitude a great many people have. Why do you think Donald Trump is hitting 40% in some polls? The writer says one Wilder student is at risk of expulsion over a Confederate flag attached to his vehicle that he drove to school. Ooh. Jordan Beatty, a student at Casa Academy in Wilder, was asked to remove his flag from his truck and was forbidden to fly it on school property, according to local TV station KIVI. Now, I can see why they would say, this is the school, you're not flying the flag on property. But it was on his vehicle, and apparently he must be in a student parking lot, right? That must be the issue. The flag was a gift from Beatty's girlfriend. Jordan Beatty and his mother, Sherry Beatty, met with school officials about it. They were informed the flag should be removed because, get this, it could be affiliated with a gang. Do you know any gangs that fly the Confederate flag? There's a new movie out that celebrates a badass group of musicians from the early 1990s who used all sorts of profanity and threatened women and police officers. Liberals love the movie, by the way, even though it's filled with all sorts of hateful lyrics about how you beat up your 14-year-old girlfriend and rape her and the like. But that's okay because this is an oppressed minority, so that's okay. It's okay for them to sing that. I've got more about this story, though. So the newspaper and the television station was really on top of this, too, as well. KIVI contacted the Caldwell Police Department to follow up on the claim about gangs. Police officials said they were unsure where Casa Academy received its information. God bless that police department. The department doesn't consider the Confederate flag a gang symbol, that according to Caldwell Police Department Captain Frank Wyant. Quote, we don't encourage anybody to take it down, unquote, Wyant told the TV station. Quote, those are their rights, and that's what we're here for, is to protect and uphold those rights, unquote. So who among the education establishment over there, who are looking to graduate all of those kids, who over there made the determination that this was a gang symbol, and where did that dope get that information from? And these people are actually teaching children, and they're running schools. Hello? Oh, it's affiliated with gang symbols, and people might not like it. Well, it's on the kid's truck. Again, it's a gift. It's a rather historical artifact, just like Kurt Schilling collecting Nazi flags, helmets, and uniforms, along with probably all of the other French uniforms he has, the British uniforms he has, the U.S. uniforms that he has. And yet, Lefty cannot help himself. He has to control everything everybody else does, and he has to tell you what is right and wrong, even though he has no theology degree. All he does is sit around and rub himself silly and then try to tell you that that's better than anything you're doing. And in fact, you should join him and you will be forced to join him. 8:30 in just a minute or so, and that means, of course, another break coming up, hard break on our program, and then we'll have half an hour of medical talk. We're going to be joined by Dr. Jonathan Tripp. Also, one of his associates is joining us, a specialist. We're talking about kidney issues. And this is going to be one of those half hours where I think if you know someone who's dealing with that, and it's prevalent because especially as you age, but it's also sometimes striking people who are much younger, you'll have an opportunity in the next half hour to give us a telephone call and chat with the doctors and get some details on some of the latest treatments that are available. Our telephone number, if you'd like to give them a shout in the next half hour, 736-0300, 736-0300. Bill Colley with you on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And so you've got school districts with their invented conspiracies. It just again, what other myths are they teaching your children? Also, Rebecca Mills-Soyka, I believe, is joining us from Twin Falls City Council just after 9 o'clock news. Hope you can stick around.